right, welcome everybody. This is the Ask the Expert Show with Couples Academy. I am Jeff, and Lakeisha should be joining us here any moment now. She's having a couple technical difficulties. What I wanted to do is welcome you to the show, remind you to like, share, and subscribe. And, let's get this going. Let's get some questions coming in. I see Fidelina Franco coming back again from Las Vegas. And I see Nina Wright has a question. So I'm going to go on and answer that before we get into any kind of commercials or anything. Nina is asking, good evening from Detroit. Started a conflict resolution class last week. Realized I should have taken it years ago. Okay. And then she continues on. I know my husband has past hurts. How do I get him up to open up and talk about them? So this is going to depend greatly on how your relationship is going and where you're at. Are you guys in a place where you can talk about everything else? Is there still conflict? Have those conflicts been resolved? Because you're asking him to be vulnerable, okay? And when you're asking somebody to be vulnerable, it's hard to do unless they feel safe. So one of the best ways to do that is through counseling, of course. You can give Hassani a call. We have a 15-minute discovery call that can begin the process if your husband is willing. And then from there, seeking counseling, whether it's with us or with another group, it doesn't matter as much how you go about it. But if he's not feeling safe in the moment to open up and deal with his past hurts, it may take another person, that a third party that can actually open those questions up. Vulnerability is difficult for men. It really is, especially if they've been through traumatic events. In my men's groups, it's very hard to get these guys to let down their shells and be open. They don't understand that freedom is on the other side of vulnerability. Vulnerability in the world of men has always been looked at as weakness. Tears are looked at as being weak. But the truth of the matter is the only courage in this world comes from being vulnerable. You have to expose yourself in order to show courage. And maybe you can get him to watch the show or do something with you in this realm that makes him feel a little more comfortable that this is what you're into and that he's open to it. I hope that helps, Nina. We got Ralph coming in from Wooster, Ohio, and we have the Cali Power couple back. I know there was no show on Friday morning or this morning. Hassani's been traveling. He is in Mexico. And he was trying to do the morning show this morning, but he could not get to it because of all the things he needed to do in order to get to Mexico. And Lakeisha is with us. Hey, Lakeisha.
Hey, oh my goodness. Hi.
And the show, as far as Fridays goes, is probably not going to happen on Fridays anymore. To be honest, Hassani is so busy, and how he finds a moment in the day to even do the show, I have no idea. That's why he's building a team right now. And as the organization grows, his time is getting more and more reduced, but we're all stepping up to try to help. I think Fridays are going to be out for a little while, but evenings should be here, and the morning should be here tomorrow. He's trying to make sure he does that. Like I said, he is on a vacation with his family, and so I hope you guys can all understand that. We're going to try to fill in any way we can. I know you guys look forward to the show, and we appreciate your loyalty to the show. I need to just go to and remind everybody that Last Chance Weekend is coming up in February. Right, Lakeisha?
I cannot wait for Last Chance Weekend.
And I am going to give you
super excited.
I'm going to give you guys a little taste of what it's a very meditative experience in one way, and then we're getting in doing some work and doing some things to actually help couples stay together. So this Valentine's Day, if you're really trying to put your marriage back together, there's nothing better than doing 6 months worth of counseling in a few short days.
And a weekend.
Exactly. It's tough on us. Like, we're exhausted by the time we go to bed every night. We barely wake up in the morning because we have to get up before you guys do, and we go to bed after you guys do because we have all these meetings and discussions and different things. But at the end of the day, we're about one thing, and that's keeping couples together and helping them find not just stay together, but stay together and be happy together
Yes.
once again. So I'm going to show you guys a little taste of that. Hold on one second, please. All right, so we are back. Hey, Lakeisha, how's your day going?
Man, my day is going great, man. How was yours?
It's been a busy day. Lots of
Of
new stuff
course.
going on. I'm jealous Hasani's in Mexico without us.
I know. Why did he leave us? What? You know what? When he comes back, Jeff, we need to
Mhm.
go. You take your wife, I take my husband, and we both go to Mexico.
I'm going to Dubai.
So I'm the only one being left behind. So I need to plan a trip. That's what it sounds like. I'm the
Yes,
one
you
that
need to
needs
plan a trip, but we
to plan a
definitely
trip.
need to do one all together. Wait, aren't we going to get away in June or July together? You bring
I'm
your
just
husband, right?
saying, Hassani and Danielle left us, and so I thought we were in solidarity, but clearly you're leaving as well. So I'm just
It's
out
my
here on an
20th. I will
island by
never live
myself.
that down. My 20th anniversary, I'll never live that down. We got to go
Well,
big. It's
okay.
20 years, and only 10 of them have been good. So
Well,
we got to
you get a
celebrate.
pass. You get a pass.
Yep.
You get a pass.
All right. I see Danielle Stormer here. She's got a question for us. How do you move
How do
past the
you
toxic?
move past a toxic parent? The past affects my life about being a mother and wife. She has passed away, so I can't talk to her about why she treated me poorly. Man, this has happened a few times, right? To various people where there's been some not so good choices made by the parents and growing up, and they pass away, and the child who is now an adult doesn't have an opportunity to get maybe some insight into why it is that they did what they did, or why they didn't show up for you in the way that you needed them to. It's very easy to stand in judgment against our parents, and I don't know that that's your case, but it's very easy to stand in judgment about what our parents should have done and what they should not have done. But once I became a parent, I understood that parenting is hard, and there's really no manual, there's no guide to really help us. I mean, there's books, but I'm saying, like, it's really difficult to really understand everything that you need to do when it comes to parenting a child. And if a parent has not healed their own wounds, dealt with their own baggage and drama and trauma, then they will inflict that a lot of times onto their children. So I'm sorry that you had a bad experience with your parent that was toxic. There's really nothing that you can do to change the past. All you can really do is focus on today and moving forward, and really just getting to a place where you release them and you forgive them, because there's nothing that you can do to change the past. And so you can't talk to her about why she treated you poorly. You understand. The first part is recognizing that the past has had an effect on your life. Identifying how it's impacting your life, I think, is the next step. Are you a parent now and you're being toxic with your own kids? Are you toxic in your marriage? How is it affecting your life? But like I said, the main thing is understanding that they did the best that they could do with the information that they had at the time, and releasing them. And was it Oprah? I don't know. We have so many resources that we tap into, and I don't know if it was Oprah or TD Jakes or who it was, but they define forgiveness as letting go of the idea, or the possibility that the past could be any different. And so you really got to let go of the idea that the past could have been any different from what it was. Release that parent, recognize, how that pain is showing up in your life, and then let's make some steps towards trying to heal that.
I have one tool I could give you. I'm gonna give you $10,000 worth of therapy in 2 minute soundbite, if I can. So you have to understand that all of our fears and pain typically come from taking the past and projecting it in the future, not living in the present moment. So what that means is we've experienced something in the past and we cast it and project it and see it in things that are in our future. And then in our present, we get triggered by things of the past, which starts this never-ending cycle of kicking things forward.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to deal with your past. I want you to deal with your present. And I want you to deal with your future. So here's the technique. If you're going to do it, it will help. I want you to take one day, pull out a journal, and I want to put yourself in a calm state. If you meditate, then meditate first. Whatever it is, pray. Get yourself in a peaceful state. Don't do this when work is in the way, when the kids are in the way, when your husband and you are fighting, whatever's going on. You need a quiet place. So if this is early in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday, then that's fine. And I want you to imagine for a second that you're going to have one last conversation. One last conversation with your mother. And you're going to have to keep your eyes closed and imagine her being there. And I want you to be open and willing to listen to the responses she gives you in your imagination. Because this is the only way you're going to get in contact with her. Not asking you to do any seances. This is your imagination, right? But the pain that you're feeling is also be a projection of your imagination, because it's not happening to you right now. So if we're suffering the non-existential, then we need to find a non-existential way to deal with the suffering. So the way we're going to do this is just simply sit down and imagine your mother sitting there, and you're finally getting a chance to say everything you want to say. And then your little prayer closet, wherever you're going to go, you're going to release that and say what you want to say. And I want you to wait for her response. And I want you to write it down in your journal. Then I want you to sit down without her there and look at your present. And I want you to look at all the things that are going right and all the things that are going wrong that you have control over. And I want you to value those and put those in a place of importance in your life. And then I want you to have another conversation, but this conversation is going to be different. This is going to be an imagination again, but of the future. And I want you to take a 10-year-old version of yourself without all the obstacles, without all the pain. This should be done on 3 separate days, by the way. Without all the obstacles, without all the pain, without any obstruction in your way from living your perfect life. What does that person look like? Describe them. Describe them spiritually, where they're at in their walk. Describe them emotionally, where they're at in their emotions and how they feel. Describe them physically. What do you look like 10 years from now? this perfect version of you, no obstacles in your way, and this perfect version of you financially, the environment you live in, what do you drive, where are you working, how much money do you make, how are your kids, how's your relationship with your kids, your husband, everything in a perfect environment, no obstacles in your way. And then once you've had that imagination, you've written all that down, I want you to have a conversation with that older version of yourself. And I want you to ask them all the questions that you want to ask in order to arrive where you want to be. How do I get there? Those kinds of things. What are you doing right now? Have those questions with that imaginary self and let that inform you. So now we've dealt with the past, we've realized the present, and now we're getting guidance for the future, and it's all coming from within you. Make room for God in that space, but I want you to know He's giving you a powerful gift, and one of those gifts is imagination. And all the counseling and all the consultation you need is in there if you can tap into it. And if not, then I would seek therapy. If this doesn't work, seek therapy. Let me know what you think about that. All right? Thanks, Danielle. All right. We got Legendary Lady. One of two today in a fight with my husband said he feels like he can't have any accounted time because he has to deal with my insecurities. Said he's bored with doing the same thing with me and he's going to start 2 of 2. Staying to himself because I have a chemical imbalance. He cheated and I was fine before, but now I'm all these things because he got caught. How do I deal with the gaslighting? Okay. This sounds like it's a two-sided issue, and both people are going like this. So there probably is some truth to your lack of trust in him. And there's probably an emptiness that he's feeling because of that lack of trust, regardless of whether he's doing all the right things, doing all the wrong things. We're not into that right now. We're just talking about he's probably suffering the pain of being the accused. And you're suffering the fear of him doing it again. And so this balancing act of trying to figure out who's going to do right first, this competition of who's going to trust who first and who's not going to get hurt, is killing y'all. Would you agree, Lakeisha?
100%.
So what I would do, and I know you might have talked to us, but last chance weekend, we're good at getting to the bottom of this one. This is the one we see the most.
Well, how many times have we, and I know, Jeff, you don't work with couples, but you've worked with the men. How many times?
I work with couples too, but just not as much.
Well, not now, right? But like, how many times have you gotten in front of a couple or you've gotten in front of a husband and they just said, I'm throwing my hands up, I'm done, I'm tired, it's too much, it's too hard, it's too much work. Shoot, didn't you get there at some point? Didn't you feel some days like, I just want to quit? Like, I felt that way before. Like, I just don't want to keep fighting. I don't know when this is going to come to an end. Well, I'll tell you what, it never comes to an end. You never stop fighting. You never stop working. When I say fight, I don't mean like arguing fight, but I mean like you're constantly fighting for your marriage every single day. When the minute your eyes open, as soon as your feet hit the floor, you're making a conscious decision today that I'm going to fight for my marriage. But there are times where we do get tired because it does get hard and it does get overwhelming. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is the thing. You know you're not crazy. You know you didn't have insecurities prior to this. According to what you're saying, I don't know you, but according to what you're saying, you were fine before the infidelity occurred. So if that is the case, you know you're not crazy. You know that your insecurities stem from this betrayal. And so now it is a situation where you are looking for that confirmation. Like Jeff said, there's fear there that he's going to cheat again. So you're looking for that confirmation that he's changed. You're looking for the consistency.
Well, you're looking for the confirmation that he's cheating again. One or the other, whatever.
One or the other. One or the other. But either way, you need an answer, right? So, I mean, it's up to him to do his work just like you have to do yours. When he's showing up and he's being consistent, you have to be open to receive that. but he definitely has to show up and he has to be consistent. So we talk about this all the time. There's work that has to be done on both parts, and you both can't sit there saying, well, when he does this and I'll do that. No, when she does this, then I'll do that. It doesn't work that way.
Always feel like I'm stuck in the bad position when I come on the show, and it actually is extremely painful. And the painful part is I'm trying to give you guys one tool, and you need a toolbox. You need a toolkit.
Right.
And it's so hard in just a half an hour or an hour or even to do a series, because if you don't get it in an environment and be able to ask the questions and get the response and get the questions and hear other people's responses and build off of that, it's very, very difficult. I will say this. He should not have a problem accounting for all of his time. But that takes a level of maturity that does not exist in most men. Period. 99, maybe more percent of men do not have that level of accountability, regardless of how fantastical we want to make the world. They just don't have that level of accountability. Why? They've never seen it in their lives. And you can't ask somebody to become what they've never seen. And so what I want to say is simply that someone who is living in that world has to guide. Because if you don't have an example, if I want to be a basketball player and I just hand you a basketball and you grew up in a place where there never was a basketball court or anyone to dribble or anyone to watch that was doing it right.
So are you asking, who is he listening to, Jeff? Are you asking who's in his circle? Who's he following?
Exactly. And he's got to see that they have what he wants in life. They have to see that, okay, I'm completely transparent with my wife. That did not exist. And I used to be like, why are you always following me? And why are you on my phone? And I can't have any time to myself. Can I just have some privacy?
No.
Guess what? The moment I became super, 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 super transparent, it's to the point now where she doesn't want to say, here's my phone. No, you don't need your phone, babe. I'm going to Georgia, honey. Okay. You with Asani, right? Yeah, I'm with Asani. That's all there is. There's no questions. Anytime she does call or anything, I'm responding immediately because that's respect. But I had to learn that from another man. I didn't watch it on a fairy tale or see it on a TV show. I didn't watch it on a YouTube video. I met people who were living like that. Mm-hmm. I met men who had it all together, and they guided me out of this situation. And so that's why I highly encourage Last Chance Weekend, so you can be around people and see what it's like to not have that.
He may not know also, and I agree with that, Jeff. He may not know exactly what he needs to do in order to support her in her healing and being able to move past into minimizing some of those insecurities. But at the same time, sis, you have to do your work as well, right? We can't solely depend on the other person to make us feel better about ourselves. And, so make sure that you are doing what you need to do to make sure that you're as healthy and as whole as you can possibly be. And the insecurities as far as your relationship is concerned, there's definitely responsibility that your husband has to help, to start diminishing some of those insecurities.
Yeah, there's always that trust problem, right? So you're going to have to find a way to have something that you want to believe in and then give him basically the rope to hang himself on or not hang himself on. Mm-hmm. And then when he actually does, if you created a list of things you want to believe about your husband in order for your marriage to be restored, mm-hmm. I would share it with him. This is what I want to believe about you. And then as he does those, start having faith in him a little bit that he's doing at least these things right.
Right.
And acknowledge those things.
She asked about gaslighting too, Jeff. I'm saying call him out on it.
Yeah, gaslighting is what it is.
Yeah, but you got.
It's also a buzzword, right? We like to say things are gaslighting even when they're not. I don't like the fact that he has unaccounted time. I don't like that. As a man, I
Well,
personally I don't want my kids to have unaccounted time. I don't want my
mhm.
wife to have unaccounted time. If I can't tell you where I was, show you where I was, you can't show me where you were, there's a problem.
Yeah.
With my wife and my kids, just as a safety and security concern for their well-being, not even about what are you doing? Who are you with?
But what do you always say, Jeff? You don't have anything to hide nothing.
The
Right.
men who have nothing to hide nothing.
Yep.
That's it.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Jeff, you got a shout out.
Where?
Did you see it?
No.
Okay, look. I'm gonna show you. I think it's Shalise. She said the book that Jeff recommended to help with my feelings of diminished self-worth is on the way. I thank you for your wisdom and appreciate the entire team. Do you remember what the book was? You recommend such good books.
Oh
Do
my
you remember?
God. I don't know, but
It's cool that
Shalise,
you know.
New Jersey. That's New Jersey
Shalise,
love right there.
shout out the title of the book so other people can benefit from that.
I don't remember
Jeff,
the book. Yeah, Shalise, you're
rocking
gonna have to
it.
remind me which one because I dropped so many in here.
You really do. You really do. All right, Cali Power Couple. My queen has a hard time. I just love the fact that you call her your queen. But my queen has a hard time with the past concerning the affair I was in. It's been about 2 years now. I honestly have been showing up a lot. I was never a cheater, but I did cheat. It was never my thing.
Okay. So to me, 9 times out of 10, there's a disclosure issue. So it's not the fact that you disclose that you cheat, it's that she still has questions about the affair itself that she's never been able to get an answer to. And we, even when we're trying to be forthright, tend to be lawyers for ourselves. So like what happened was, and it didn't mean anything. And then men were always going to get in this trap. It didn't mean anything. Well, how much do you value me if you're going to do something that didn't mean anything but hurt me? Like there's going to be these traps because you do not think like women do. We were raised with this image of what a man's supposed to be, whether it's a cowboy in India, a sheriff, a police officer. And they were raised with this princess ideal. All women were raised with that princess ideal. I don't know a woman who wasn't. I actually do know a couple that weren't. But generically speaking, there was these different roles for men, and there was this one ideal for women.
Right.
And when we don't fit that ideal, we get ourselves entrapped. And because we have all these different ideas of what a man is, and half of those weren't real anyway, we get ourselves into traps with our words because we think we sound clever. And we're using logic where emotion is present. And emotion will bust through logic in 5 seconds.
Yes.
Think about every bad purchase decision you've ever made. It's because emotion got in the way.
Yeah.
Emotion will override logic all day, every day, and it will find a way. It's like water. It doesn't see walls. It's like, okay, if I have to build up and go over it, I'm going over it. And if I have to build up and go through it, I'm going to go through it. If I have to wear it down over time, I'm going to wear it down over time. That's what emotion does. And men, we try to use logic to solve an emotional problem. You're never going to be successful at that. Get help. That's what I'm going to tell you. Get help.
That's good. That was good, Jeff. I want to add on to that. Man, it's been about 2 years. And so, we never put time frames, but on average, research has shown that it does take roughly, 2 to 3 years to recover from an affair. We don't know the details, of course. We don't know if it was multiple affairs. We don't know if it was one time. Like
2 years of counseling.
2 years of counseling. Facts.
2 years of counseling.
Right. And doing the work. So, I don't know you guys' situation. I don't know if you've been in counseling before at all. Like Jeff said, the disclosure part is critically important. We talked about, previously that, man, there have been couples that have been together for many, many years. Infidelity happened 10 plus years ago. They're still dealing with it because disclosure wasn't handled properly. So I 100% agree with that as well. But also you said you've been showing up a lot, right? I don't know what that looks like. Are you showing up the way she needs you to? I don't know. Again, I don't know what conversation.
Showing up doesn't build trust. Showing up alone is what you're supposed to do anyway.
Right.
And we're going to talk in figuratives, but I'm going to get neurochemical with it. Can I do that, Lakeisha?
Well, that's where you live. That's your happy space.
That's my happy space. So what you're trying to do is create an oxytocin response in their brains. So when is oxytocin present? It happens during lovemaking. It happens when a baby is nursing from its mother. It happens during birth at a very high level in women. It happens there. Two guys shake hands and they got that tough, yo, bro, man, love, all that stuff. Oxytocin is produced because there's an expected action and a reciprocal action that happens in each of those things where a bond is felt, and where that bond is created, the brain releases oxytocin when it perceives that a bond is even possible. Okay? So what you're trying to do is produce a bond, and you're trying to do it logically.
Mm-hmm.
And has anyone ever tried to hook you up on a date and then they showed you who you were talking to and you weren't interested, and they were like talking about all the qualities and you still weren't interested? Well, that's somebody trying to force a bond using logic.
Yep.
Bonds don't happen because of logic. They happen because of an emotional intensity.
Mm-hmm.
That means you have to create a safe environment. Not like security on the walls and there's guards at the door. Has to feel safe. It
But
has
that's
to
what
be
I'm saying.
perceived as safe.
But that's what I'm saying. So it depends on, is he showing up the way that she needs him to? And that's what I mean. Like, what creates that bond? Well, I have a need and you meet the need. I have a request, you honor that request. I tell you to stop doing something, you stop doing the thing. So then that makes me feel good because you did what I asked you to do, or you
I'm
stopped
going to
doing what I
give you
asked.
a hack, though, Lakeisha.
Say that again.
I'm going to give him a hack.
Well, go ahead.
You have to watch and see where all the other bonds are still being created that you're not a part of. And you have to observe what those bonds are being created and what environments and conditions are being brought. And then you've got to participate in enhancing those bonds. And when you enhance those bonds, you can piggyback ride on the bond. I just gave you a hack I probably shouldn't give you because somebody's going to abuse that and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. But
well, they'll let you know
the bonds that you see already happening. So if she's got a bond with her mother, you should support that. If she's got a bond with the kids, and you need to support that bond and encourage that bond. You need to show up in the way that shows that you have interest and care for the things that she cares about, but especially where bonds are present. And then you can piggyback right off the oxytocin. It's not going to happen the first time. It's going to take consistency. So I want you to do me a favor. If you don't understand this process, I want you to go get a bucket of water. I want you to dump it out on the ground. That is all your trust being lost. Now I want you to take the same amount of water that was in that bucket after you know exactly a gallon of water in a bucket. I want you to take a gallon of water and I want you to pull out an eyedropper and fill that bucket. That's how many times you're going to have to show up.
Facts. Hey, Jeff. So Shalise wants to know if the technique that you described about the journal and writing into your imaginary, you were talking about the toxic parent response, that she needed to write that, write down what she felt like her mother would say to her from the grave. They wanted to know, does it work with the former cheating spouse to let go of everything, to move through those conversations that you described?
So I have so many questions. Which is former, the cheating or the spouse, right? So, like, are you still working through someone else who was your spouse at a different time period and that was cheating? Or are you still with this person? Because the imaginary thing doesn't work when they're a real person and present. You need to deal with that in real time. The imaginary thing works when there's no other way. Okay.
Yep.
We want to deal in reality as much as possible, but I gave you 3 scenarios where you can't deal with the reality. The first scenario is the past person who's no longer there, and it gives you closure because that's the last conversation you're going to be having about that. And the future version of yourself is about your desires and what you want, because we removed all the obstacles from your future self. Now, I would say that it would probably be beneficial to do the same thing, to have a real conversation with that cheating spouse about your feelings, your emotions 100%. We have that in the disclosure process, and them answering the questions. That's the disclosure process. I do think it is a good idea to create an imaginary future for both of you, see how many commonalities you have in common, and then build that as a goal set to work through. But yeah, if they're still present, I wouldn't do the imaginary spouse if he's present in your life still.
Hey Jeff, you always give such a great example with how we move from how we actually get to trust. But this question is, how do you move forward when you are telling the truth and forthcoming, but your partner doesn't believe you because of your past transgressions and betrayal?
Okay, so here's the problem. Once again, I'm going to start with disclosure. Was there full disclosure? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, us guys do trickle disclosures. So our trickle disclosure turns into being a bunch of lies, right? So what it ends up is first, well, she didn't mean nothing, and then well, she meant something, but like it was like what had happened was, and then well, why did you buy her roses on such and such day if she didn't mean anything? You know, I was just trying to impress her. Why are you trying to impress her? You didn't buy roses for me. You're going to get yourself in a trap. There is a system for doing disclosure of what happened. And unfortunately, it's going to be a real, real uncomfortable conversation. And I would suggest you have guidance through that conversation, because when we referee these conversations, it's not pretty. I'm jumping down the woman's throat just as much as I'm jumping down the man's throat half the time.
Same.
Sometimes they're going too far and saying things over and over and over again, asking the same question 45 different ways from Sunday. I'm like, didn't you get an answer already? Didn't he just answer that question? And then on the other side, guys are like, well, see, I really didn't go there on Saturday, but I guess I did go there on Saturday. Like, they sound like you just sound like you're lying. Yeah. So if you don't have somebody sitting there guiding that conversation, that disclosure is the first point of releasing all the pain, because they still have questions. And as long as you're still in doubt about what actually happened in the affair, they're always going to be in doubt about the possibility of it happening again.
Yeah.
And so disclosure has to happen first. And if the full disclosure was done and there's still pain, then she may need therapy and you may need to learn how to communicate better. I'm not just talking about communicating with your words. I'm talking about communicating with your actions and showing up in a way that she needs to feel that, you're a part of it.
Well, we keep saying, that it's really important that individually you guys are doing the work, because at the end of the day, like, if the betrayer is doing the work, showing up, doing everything right, but the betrayed is not willing to receive, not open to receive, then they're not going to receive. So both parties have to do their individual work. Ooh. Whew. Houston wants to know, is it wise to take a step back when you want your marriage and relationship so much because you're trying, but it's viewed as being bothersome? Bothersome? I have questions.
I have questions too, because bothersome. So one, how fresh is it? Two, like, what are you doing? See, we think we're doing something because we say we're trying. But, okay, listen. Brother, I want you to perform surgery on me. Do you know how to do that? No, you didn't go learn the process of, have you done any study on grief? On any study on pain? Have you done any study on infidelity and what it caused? Have you done any study on neurochemistry and, suffering or pain?
And PTSD.
And PTSD, all of these types of things. Because if you don't understand how those things work, if you can go down and help a brother get out of PTSD at the VA, then you know how to heal your marriage. Facts. But if you can't say you know that, then you need help. Now, if you're willing to go study it all, I applaud you, brother. Do it. But I'm telling you, you have to treat this. You not only have to treat this like it's PTSD, like the guys, and I'm not making fun of that, because I have soldiers. I'm a vet myself. I have soldiers all in my life that have PTSD. I know what that looks like. They're traumatized and they get flashbacks, and women get flashbacks because of the trauma we create in their lives.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Now imagine one of the bombers from 9/11 was trying to get rid of the PTSD from the people who experienced 9/11. Imagine the guy who blew up the ID on the vehicle that put this young soldier in PTSD is now trying to do the therapy after he created the bomb that put him in a wheelchair. Like, a lot of us guys are trying to go be the therapist when we were the terrorists. It's a very, very hard role to play, and I bet you've never thought of it like that. You're the one who caused the pain, and now you're trying to heal it by showing up and trying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I blew up your vehicle. I'm sorry I destroyed your whole life. I'm sorry I destroyed your vision of what marriage was, and that was the only thing you wanted in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's why we keep telling people to get help.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we guys who are cheating, and even the women who are cheating, are the same, especially when there's an ideal in place of, I have the perfect marriage, and they're going out and they're bragging on you, and they're telling the world, and then that'll never happen to me. And then they wake up one day, and you're the same person who rolled a grenade in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't look at it that way, fellas, but we got to be honest with ourselves. We have literally tore down the fairy tale princess dreams. Even with all the other stars, the arguing, the quibbling, the fighting, they still maintain that one dream because that thing didn't happen to them. And then we did it. And now we want to heal it.
Yeah.
That's some serious trauma to go through. And we have to be sensitive to that and be willing to do what it takes, including therapy.
Yep.
Last Chance Weekend.
I just want to, I know that there has been dialogue, there's conversation between Legendary Lady and it looks like your husband chimed in too. I want to point this comment out because I think it's going to help other viewers too. But she said, knowing everything is very important. There are still unanswered questions. That's what you said, Jeff. Full disclosure, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm fighting to not be fooled again. Apparently I was wrong before because what I believe we had, we didn't. This is like the core of what the infidelity does to a relationship and what it does to the betrayed. They are constantly, because you feel like you're a fool. You feel like you got hoodwinked, you got bamboozled, right? And so you never want to be in a position where you are deceived ever again. So there's this guard that goes up. There's this wall that goes up where you're trying to protect yourself from being hurt again. But guess what? When there's a wall up, that means nothing can go out and nothing can come in. So while that partner is trying to pour into you, love on you, show up for you, prove to you, give you all of these things that maybe you've been asking for, you can't receive it because the wall is up. And if there's still
unanswered questions.
That's what I'm saying. If there's still unanswered questions, that wall will never come down.
Never come down.
And there's so many couples that they feel like, oh, well, we've talked about everything. We've addressed everything. But if there's still unanswered questions, then you haven't talked about everything and you haven't addressed everything. And literally what you did was sweep it under the rug. And everybody keeps walking around that spot. They keep trying to step over it. You're not addressing the elephant in the room, and you cannot move forward when you still have this thing that's hanging back there. You can't move. It's like a weight that you can't get off of you.
Fellas, I know you don't want to answer these questions because sometimes we're in all honesty not trying to cause any further pain.
Exactly.
But I'm going to tell you one thing I've learned is that when someone gets shot in the battlefield, sometimes you have to cut a little deeper to get the bullet out.
Yep.
And so you're going to have to reveal some things that go a little bit deeper and that hurt a little bit more. And I would strongly suggest you do that in an environment of professionals who know what they're doing when they're dealing with this particular thing. Trust me, they're there to help. Like, I sit through these conversations and I watch men put their foot in their mouths. And I'm like, take your foot out your mouth. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, sometimes the women go way too far on the other side of it with their questions. And we're also there. And Lakeisha, I know you've done this a bunch of times. We've had these
Yes.
conversations where, whoa, like, okay, he answered your question. He was being reasonable, and you're taking this way too far. You need to calm down
Because you
and
can't hear.
reassess because you can't hear right now.
You
You're
can't
hearing with
hear right
emotional
now.
ears.
You're using emotional ears. You're in so much pain. You're in so much hurt that it's and there's so much baggage and there's so much damage that's been done and there's all this trauma and all of those things. So you can't hear. You can't hear. So you need that third party that's there that doesn't have the emotional attachment, that doesn't have the baggage, doesn't have the trauma, that literally can hear from both sides and be able to reframe it, reshape it, rephrase it in a way that you can receive and that you can hear and that you can understand.
So I do hear um, Houston right here. He just said, if I'm the one who was cheated on, still go through the process? Absolutely. Now, Darrell, it was full disclosure at Last Chance Week, and I wanted to go up and figure out what that was. I saw it before. How do you move forward when you were telling the truth, forthcoming? And so you did okay, so now you've done this process. Okay. So you've gone through full disclosure and you did it Last Chance Weekend. And that was in November. So
What's been the follow up?
yeah, the follow up is going to be: has there been any additional counseling sessions? Have you,
Mm-hmm.
like, where's the hiccups right now? They know they don't believe you because of your past transgressions. So they didn't get resolved there because that was supposed to be the last conversation. Were all the questions asked and answered there?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I need to know because I do remember November, and I can't remember all the details. I do remember a couple people not playing ball in November, and I can't remember if that was your situation or not. I do remember a couple people storming off and not completing the whole process. So if it was truly a full disclosure and everything was answered, then there needs to be some kind of counseling to relay that again, and we need to bring that back up to the forefront and talk about it, because if there's still something that they don't believe, we got to ask two questions. One, did you give a true and honest full disclosure
Mm-hmm.
with every detail out there and ask every single question? And two, did they accept that when they were there?
Right.
Because if they said that they accepted it, if the forgiveness letters were written, if all of the work was done, then you guys should be moving forward with a plan
Mm-hmm.
together to work together. Otherwise, there needs to be continuous counseling.
Yeah, because sometimes we have to remind couples like that have gone through Last Chance Weekend. We have to remind them. That's why we do, there are opportunities for follow-up care. But sometimes we have to remind them of the agreement that they made when they were there for Last Chance Weekend. Remember?
Opportunities.
That's
There's the Moving Forward program, which is literally built to make sure that you have the encouragement, support, and you have office hours where you get to ask all of your questions and get everything resolved and deal with anything that wasn't dealt with at the Last Chance Weekend.
well,
And
and
we
it's
don't.
accountability. It's
Yep.
we all need accountability, right? The betrayed needs that to continue to do what they committed to doing, and the betrayer needs to also have that accountability that they're going to continue doing what they agreed to
Some of the
do.
couples I see come out of Last Chance Weekend go off in their merry way, and they're like rocking. Like, we see a couple of them
Hmm.
come on here, and they're just happier than life. You know, some surgeries are 1 day surgeries, literally. They both had issues. They both recognize it. Sometimes the wounds are deeper than that, and you're going to need some PT to be able to walk again.
Well,
Those are
sometimes the wounds are deeper, but and we always say everybody's situation is extremely different, right? Like if you're dealing with a one night stand where you've had no more contact with this person, no more communication, versus someone who was in an affair for 5 years, that work is going to be different. If you only had one person who was the betrayer, that's one way. But what if both of you cheated? So then that process is different. So it literally is
I'm
designed
trying to remember
according
this.
to what's going on with your individual situation.
Um, who else do we have? We're getting late here.
We are like super late. I think we answered all of the questions. What I will say to, I think it's Darock and Legendary Lady, you guys need to reach out to us. Like seriously, I see the conversation and I see the comments. There's so much more going on. It's so much deeper than just this time that we have together. Please call and set up a discovery call with Asani. And I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm putting two people together that aren't together. I apologize, but Gerard, whoever your spouse is, I thought it was Legendary Lady, but it may be Cali Power Couple. I don't know, but however it goes, please reach out, get support. If you've done Last Chance Weekend, but you didn't have the follow up care and you're still having issues, we're still here. We're not going anywhere. Please call. Please reach out. Get the support that you need because, as Jeff said, sometimes it takes a little bit more than just the 1 day surgery. Sometimes you need a little bit more than that. Did we shout out the people, Jeff? Did you shout out the people?
I did in the beginning, yes.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, I just want to say to you all, like, we fully understand that there's no quick fix, right? There's no magic wand that we can wave that will make your pain go away, that will make it better, that will make the bleeding
It takes
stop
two willing parties
immediately.
to actually make this thing work. The same thing they put
Exactly.
together, two willing parties, is going to take two willing parties that actually want to make it work. And without the desire, there's not a thing anyone can do. If I
Right.
got two willing parties, we can find a way. But if I got one person saying, I'm just coming to check the block, or yeah, I'm showing up and I'm going to just give my part of the story, or if someone wants to sit there and live in fear of the non-existent for the rest of their lives, they're going to make their choices. We're here for
Yeah.
two people that want to make it work.
That's it.
You know, some people, when they find that pain, they actually enjoy it. It's a weird,
Mm,
sick feeling.
mm, that is true.
They hold on to that because it's the first time they've ever had control in a relationship.
Mm, yep.
And they'll use it to control to the day they die. They've got to give that
Yeah.
up. But
Yeah.
also, I see a lot of on the other side where the person who did the harm doesn't realize how deep the harm was, and they're just looking to go through the program so things can just go back to normal, so they could be a
Right.
daddy in their kids' lives or whatever it needs to be. And then
Yeah.
they return, like they haven't really given up their creepy ways. There's
Yeah.
got to be individual development on the side of both people. And that doesn't matter whether you do it with us or you do it with somebody else. If you don't grow, you're going to continue to do what you're going to do.
Right.
I mean, how
Yeah.
many people go to rehab and come back out and put a needle in their arm?
Mm-hmm.
Because they still haven't dealt with the demons that caused them to use the needle in the first place.
Exactly. Getting
And
to
this
the
is
root
the
of the issue.
same thing. This is the same
Getting
thing.
to
If
the
you
root.
don't deal with your demons, you
Right.
can do all disclosure you want. If you don't deal with the demons that created the beast in the first place, you're going to go right back to the same demonic behavior. Period.
Absolutely.
Pinpoint.
Absolutely. I agree. And I also just want to say that, you know, some people want to stay in that victim role. Some people want to do that because then that puts you in a place where you don't have to work, right? Because you're still holding on to that victim role and you think that that excuses you from doing your work. And that is not the case. And like Jeff said, you know, everything is about motive and intent, right? What is the intent for coming to Last Chance Weekend? Is it to just check a box? If that's the case, it's not going to work. Are you just showing up because this is what my spouse wants me to do, and maybe at the Last Chance Weekend we can start having sex again, or I can move back home? No, you have to be willing to get on the operating table and let that surgery happen.
There has to be also beyond the relationship part of it. If you're not going to become a better version of yourself, because you might not have been the right person before you started cheating. And if you're not constantly working on improving yourself, even if it's just for yourself, all I know is when a man shows up spiritually or a woman shows up spiritually, When I say spiritually, just your knowledge of yourself and how you fit in this world and your relationship with whatever you consider created. If you can't show up emotionally, meaning you can manage and maintain your own emotions and demonstrate that, because if I can't trust you in your emotional behaviors when you're if I can't trust us when you're being faithful, then how can I even think about you? The possibilities. You can't handle yourself emotionally in regular situations and act like an adult. So of course I'm going to think you're out there cheating because you're not emotionally mature when you're at home.
Right.
And then if you're not showing up, if you show a lack of respect for your own body and don't care about yourself and let things go, that's going to show up in other aspects of your life. If you don't show up, in your dreams and being able to create the environment of your choosing, right? If you are literally showing that you are in a deficit in every aspect of your life, and then you think that a little bit of counseling is going to fix your marriage, it'll help get you resolve the issues, but you still got to show up. You got to show up the next day, and you got to be a better version of you than you were before. And if you're not willing to commit to that work, it's one thing to deal with the issue and get all the feelings out and get to the conclusion and find out the truth. But if you're not ready to walk in the truth for the rest of your life,
right,
then there's nothing anyone can do for you.
That's it.
This is to heal the situation. But you got to go home and be a different person. And that doesn't mean just not cheat.
Right.
Because some of you are cheating in other ways.
Right.
And not always with another person.
Right.
You're cheating your wife out of time, out of respect, out of money, out of decision-making process, out of all kinds of things.
Right.
Some of you are doing that with your husbands. And if you're not willing to make those changes, those fundamental changes that make you a better person. Some of us went into these marriages in a fantasy, not realizing the person we went to wasn't a prince, it was a frog. And some of you frogs need to grow up and become princes. Some of you princesses need to realize that you're not really a princess, that you're a toad too.
Yeah, well, and then princesses need to transition to queens. Exactly. And that's the reality. We all have to grow up. The princes need to become kings. And seriously, guys, we know this is not easy. We're living this every day. We're married. We're living this every single day. And we know that it's not easy, but we also know that when both parties show up and do the work, we know what can happen. We know how powerful that can be. And we know the sky's the limit once the two of you get into alignment. And another thing that we've talked about multiple times is for those of you who are believers, that wife lines up with God, that husband lines up with God. This right here becomes so much easier to deal with, so much easier to manage. And the thing is, one of the reasons why we have to partner in the first place is because sometimes God won't give a word to the person who you think they're going to give it to. Sometimes it may be something that I've been praying about, but God won't give me the answer. He'll give it to my husband. But if we're not connected, I'm missing the message. So you have to make sure that, again, you individually are connected so that this now gets in alignment. And the closer you guys grow together, the easier that this will become. But because you're so busy doing this, looking outward, outside of your marriage, for the things that really you should be looking at in your spouse, you're looking for it externally, then you're growing further and further apart. What we do here is get you back here, where you're moving closer to each other instead of looking outside of your relationship. That's how you got here in the first place. We understand infidelity didn't just happen. I say this all the time. People don't just wake up one morning and say, hey, I think I'm gonna go cheat on my spouse today and totally wreck my world, jack up my household, destroy my family. There's so much
story. And it's not that men are just out there chasing tail either. There are men who do that. I'm not negating that, female ladies out there. I know that there are men who do that. I know them personally who have made that life. Sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's economic, socioeconomic. There are men who do that. But if that's the case, you knew that when you got into it. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying, that man's got to grow up. But most men that I know, especially the ones that were willing to go through therapy, most of those guys didn't just wake up one day and say, you know what? Like you said, I'm going to go cheat and I'm going to blow up my whole house. There were problems that needed to be dealt with long before that on both sides.
Both sides.
And everybody brought their bag of ugly into the relationship. I know I brought mine.
I brought mine.
And until I decided to rectify me, until I decided to become, I wanted to drop that bag of ugly and figure out what good bags look like, what it looked like to actually see a successful marriage. And when I started becoming a real man and showing up as a real man, see, I show up regardless. I did what was right, regardless if my wife responded or not. I was looking for a return on my investment. See, here's the deal. If you're putting money in the emotional bank account of your wife on a daily balance, you never have to worry about insufficient funds.
That's right.
And if you went into a deficit, the only way to get out of debt is pay it off. And the way you protect yourself for the future after you paid it off, because that's just a break-even situation, is you got to pay it forward. And that means you don't go looking in the account every day going, how much money I got now? Or I can make a withdrawal. No, you store that up. And when that becomes a routine where you're not looking for, well, I did all the things and now she's supposed to treat me a certain way. No, you don't know that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to wake up one day and look in the bank account and be like, oh my God, we're good for retirement. You're supposed to just wake up and realize. So keep making the deposits on a daily basis into the emotional bank account. And you can't do it once with an apology, and you're not going to buy your way out of it. It's got to be show up in the best ways. And it's not just, well, I'm telling the truth now, but you're going home and you're not talking. You're going home and you're not showing kindness and affection without expecting return.
Yeah.
You're not going home and being involved in what they're interested in. You're not going home and just accepting the fact that you're going to catch a little pain and flack for what you did. And it may be for a long time. Like I said, you cannot be a terrorist and walk into the building and blow it up and then expect that everybody in the building just forgives you. It's going to take work.
Yep. So
you think I'm sorry is going to cover it, bro. It's not going to cover it because you destroyed somebody's dream.
Yep. And that's on both sides. I mean, females, wives, significant others, you got to be pouring into his account as well. It's our job to build up our spouses, right?
Me, I got to be hard for guys, but yes, you're
they
right.
are. Well, but this is why I'm here, Jeff. So we have to do our part as well, right? We can't, and we know as women, we have a way of being able to either build up our kings or we can totally tear him down, and we can do it with our words. And so it's critically important that our men don't go out into the world where they're getting beat up and just, overlooked and whatever the case may be. And they come home and they get beat up and overlooked too. Like, coming home to us should be a soft place for them to land. It should be a place where they get solitude, solace and comfort and support. And so I understand when there's been a betrayal that it's difficult to show up in these ways, but you got to make a decision. What type of marriage do you want to have? And do you want things to continue to be the way that they are? And if the answer to that question is no, which I know that the answer to that question is no, you don't want things to continue to be the way that they are, then you got to be willing to do things that you haven't done before. But Jeff, we got to get up out of here.
Oh, you're right.
That number scrolling on the bottom is the number that you call to set up a free discovery call with Hassani. If you've already gone through Last Chance Weekend or whatever, and you need additional support, that is still the number you call. Yes, he is on vacation. Hopefully he doesn't get in trouble with the one and only lady, but he's still working. So if you need to call to set up an appointment, please do it. And he will get back to you whenever
you can
he
access
can.
The calendar from the website as well.
You can also access the calendar from the website. Absolutely.
All right. So we want to thank you guys for joining us. Please like, share, subscribe, let other people know about the show and about the program, and that we're out here trying to help these people any way we can, help you guys any way we can. But once again, I want to say thank you, and thank you, Lakeisha, for helping me out tonight. Good evening, and we will see you tomorrow.
Good night, you guys.